I'm happy to welcome to the Link Climb staff, special matchup consultant, Sadie. Sadie, how do you feel about Lunalight's chances versus Hedgehog Turbo?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fantastic game. What started as a grudge match between Yugi and Kaiba has ballooned into an enormous and diverse community of tens of thousands. The pandemic has complicated things, but in-person play isn't the only way to enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! A few years ago, Konami released Duel Links, a mobile and now PC game which has of late become their most profitable product. It's a way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With some rule changes against other people on a ranked ladder. Even in times of isolation, you can duel real players, win real tournaments, and make it to a real-world championship event, all through the application. That said, among everyone I've ever spoken to, there's a single thing preventing them from diving into Duel Links. Money. Money's tight. And in an age where unemployment is historically high, it can be hard to justify spending cash on a gacha game instead of on necessities. But where some see an impediment, I see an opportunity. By planning our routes in advance, focusing on a single strategy, and playing to the best of our ability, I'm confident we can go from a new account to the King of Games, the ladder's highest rung, in the length of one ranked season. This is Link Climb.
Day 15! Give it up for Day 15!
Let's check in. By now, our deck is one card from perfect, but grinding the last card will require an unreal amount of gems. Outside of character rewards, the amount of gems you get are largely conditioned on the in-game event that's currently running. And we picked a bang-up time to start grinding ranked. The KC Cup is currently ongoing. This is the ultimate event for Duel Links grinders and the mechanism which top players use to get to Worlds. This is fantastic news for us for two reasons. One, there is a ludicrous amount of gems available for playing this event, about 50 a day plus these comically high ranked rewards. And two, while all the good players are playing this game mode, we can bum rush King of Games. We'll roll through the 4 daily games required to gain gems before jumping back into ranked, and before long... Oh, yes. Oh, boy. Okay, now if I'm losing, it's my own damn fault. With that, we can continue the grind. But we're gonna do things just a little bit differently this time. The last episode's climb cuts were less a blueprint for playing Duel Links and more a stream highlight VOD. I'd kind of expected the first few episodes of this would be focused on establishing a gem economy and getting the packs necessary to make the deck we wanted. Unfortunately, that happened pretty much immediately, and now I've got to figure out how to make the legwork of winning games exciting. What I'd expected, and what I think a lot of people expect about progression in Duel Links, is that the game is simply a grind for gems and cards, and after that, the ladder wins just sort of fall into place. Obviously, that isn't the case. So today, we're going to spend a majority of the episode on the most important thing a fledgling Duel Linker can master. Not gems, not character unlocks, not even getting the tour guide kawaii face. We're going to look at how to actually win the games you play. When you load into your game, you need to be thinking about a few things. One, what your win con is. Lunalight has two disparate but extremely focused win conditions. In every individual matchup, we will either be making the untargetable Proto Towers that is Saber Dancer, or using Lunalight Cat Dancer in conjunction with Lunalight Red Wolf to OTK. Figuring out which of these is most likely to win is critical to, winning. 2, how you're not dying. We'll usually be spending the first turn doing nothing. No matter the setup, you'll massively benefit from passing if you win the coin flip. There's nothing to OTK, and you likely don't have the material for a profitable summon. If you've got a Karibo, you're nearly guaranteed to survive, but if you don't, you'll have to consider maybe setting a Martin and using another Lunalight to bring it back next turn. 3, how you're getting to your power cards. The most powerful card in the deck, bar none, is Lunalight Fusion. Unfortunately, we're only playing 3 copies. Often we'll Destiny draw for it, but even more often we'll use Lunalight Emerald Bird to pitch a Yellow Martin and get to it that way. Of course, Lunalight Fusion, if you're not playing against an extra deck-focused deck, is literally just polymerization with a hard once per turn attached. If they are playing an extra deck-focused deck, you are going to have an easier time by binning lights from the deck. With that, let's take a look at applying these principles to some of the top decks in the metagame. First up is Invoked Neos and Invoked Element Saber. I don't respect these decks, and therefore I won't separate them. Both of them use extremely powerful trap cards like Karma Cut, Fiendish Chain, and Raigeki Break to stay alive until they can kill you with Invoked Purgatrio, a card that seems a little too strong for Duel Links. Hilariously, this isn't a terrible matchup. Our opponent makes extra deck monsters, all their removal targets so it can be Crimson Wolved, and we're never at risk of dying through Karibo. Next is Witchcrafter. Good luck. This ends on a main deck monster that is nearly impossible to walk over, and what's worse, they summon it in defense position. This is, yeah, this one's pretty much unwinnable. Moving on to Tier 2, let's check out Blackwing. Blackwing lacks a good turn 1 setup, but most of what it can string together relies on the extra deck. Unfortunately, this is one of those OTK decks that can kill you through Karibo, and don't expect Martin to do much either through Rakiri the Rain Shower chains. It's a good matchup when you go second, and a pretty bad one if you're going first. Next up is Karakuri. This deck is delightfully new, but not a miserable matchup. Like Blackwing, it doesn't do much going first, usually opting to set cash in and sit behind as many Bourrée as they can afford. It's got a pretty bad time rebuilding, so if you can out their board with something like Cat Dancer, you should be fine. That said, like Blackwing, its OTK potential is unmatched, and it will absolutely kill you through Karibo going second. We'll start Tier 3 with Blue Eyes. No matter what you're playing, this is the matchup you should prepare for the most. Blue Eyes composes, at any given time, 99.9% of the ladder. Usually they'll make Spirit and Vanilla to pass going first. This is great news. While Spirit seems like a problem, you can flex your Lunalight fusions to send Crimson Fox and another monster with the Graveyard effect, then Chain Block the former. Like most decks, it's playing many powerful trap cards, most of which target. Next up is Dark Magician. Dark Magician literally does not have an out to Saber Dancer. This one's playing Herald of the Abyss. That should let you know how bad it is. Next up is Hero, and this is a weird one. Both yourself and Hero have no turn 1 setup to speak of whatsoever, so you might be staring at each other for a while on this one. By the time they commit to an extra deck play, it's the end of the game, so you have to get creative and figure out a way to OTK through 3 defense position monsters. But keep in mind, basically every set spell or trap is going to be exactly Mask Change. And finally, Shiranui. Similar to Invoked, Shiranui ends on an extra deck monster and a ton of trap cards. They attempt to wield Sun Saga's protection we don't care about, and a bunch of traps that target. Their OTKs are usually facilitated by Shogun Saga, a single attack big number haver, which is extremely susceptible to Karibo. This is one of our meta matchups, for sure. And I'm happy to announce, we were able to wield this information to make it to Legend. We're in the home stretch, baby! Here's the replay of the game that got us there. Spoiler alert, unsurprisingly, this match is against Blue Eyes. I promise you, at least 99.9% of the ladder is on this deck. Our opponent's going first, which is great news for us. We want our opponent to set up so we can OTK on our first turn. Unfortunately, our opponent's setup leaves a lot to be desired. They're going to lead with a copy of, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Maiden with Eyes of Blue. Now, this is problematic for a couple of reasons. Number 1, she's hard to attack. Number 2, she enables some pretty powerful combos with the Claw of Hermos. They're going to send a copy of Whitestone of Ancients to the graveyard to summon a Red Eyes Black Dragon Sword from their extra deck. That will target the Maiden with Eyes of Blue, whose effect will then activate, summoning a copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon from deck. Now, that's an 8, and Maiden is both 1 and a tuner, which means they're going to be able to summon from their extra deck a Synchro monster afterwards. They're going to do just that, summoning from the extra deck a copy of Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. At end step, I'm very excited to see this copy of Blue Eyes make it to the field, until I realize, unfortunately, it's not going to be the Blue Eyes I'd expected. It's a copy of Blue Eyes Solid Dragon, a card I literally had to Google. This card has 2 effects. When it's normal or special summoned, it can negate the effects of a monster I control. Of course, that isn't applying here. And when I activate a card or effect, it can tag out for a Blue Eyes. This one is a little more problematic because as I send a copy of Lunalight Crimson Fox to the graveyard, I'm not going to be able to keep that Solid Dragon's attack low enough to OTK. We'll go into a Cat Dancer regardless, to which our opponent is going to activate some effects. We'll Chain Block here so the Crimson Fox forces the tag out. They will do it and we'll activate the Yellow Marten as well. They refuse to negate the Yellow Marten, which is an interesting choice. That Solid Dragon is going back into the deck. I think they're just afraid I'll activate the other effect of Yellow Marten later in the turn. Instead, I'm just going to add the copy of Lunalight Fusion to hand and pass turn. I'm not really at any danger of being OTK'd. You can see I've got 2 Karibos in the hand. Our opponent's going to go ahead and normal summon a monster. It is, unfortunately for us, another tuner, a second copy of Whitestone of Ancients. That'll go to the graveyard for a Vermilion Dragon Mech. Now keep in mind that reading is a fundamental skill. Our opponent's going to activate Vermilion Dragon Mech, targeting our copy of Cat Dancer. Unfortunately for them, we do have the copy of Crimson Fox in the graveyard, so we'll be able to banish that from the grave to negate the activation of that effect and have us both gain 1,000 life points. Now that might seem bad since we're running an OTK deck, but thankfully 2 attacks from the Cat Dancer does exactly 5,000 by virtue of its on-attack declaration 100-point damage burn effect. I'm feeling pretty good. At end step, our opponent's going to tag from a Whitestone of Ancients back into a copy of, oh god, this card again, Blue Eyes Solid Dragon, negating the effects of our on-field Cat Dancer. Regardless, we should be fine. While the Solid Dragon and this copy of Spirit Dragon can tag out at instant speed. That Vermilion Dragon Mech is a sitting duck. For turn we draw a Yellow Martin. Perfect. We're going to lead with a copy of Lunalight Emerald Bird, and we'll activate the effect, pitching a Yellow Martin. Now, unfortunately, our opponent elects to activate the effect of Spirit Dragon here. Very, very premature. This means we won't be able to get another Lunalight Fusion to hand, but they know we have one because we resolved the effect of Martin last turn. We'll activate the second effect of Martin, returning this copy of Emerald Bird to the hand, and summoning it from the graveyard, so we have material on our field. Next, we'll activate this copy of Lunalight Fusion, and summon from our extra deck another copy of Cat Dancer. Once again, we're going to send a copy of Crimson Fox to the graveyard, and then we'll activate its effect, targeting this copy of Vermilion Dragon Mech, so its attack goes to 0. From here, all we have to do is activate the effect of Cat Dancer and proceed to the battle phase, at which point our opponent is going to concede. 5 more ranks, ladies and gentlemen.